There's three very easy to comprehend ways that demonstrate how disasters impact Indigenous peoples that are different to non-Indigenous peoples. The first is the demographic profile of our populations. More than 50% of our population is under the age of 24 years old, with the highest concentration being infants and young children. So what we have is a really bottom heavy, really youthful population, which is a very different age structure to non-Indigenous peoples. And so obviously when disasters hit, the needs of Indigenous communities are going to be different because our profile is fundamentally different. The second one is housing. Generally, the average Indigenous household in Australia has 3 generations of people living in it, being a grandparent, a parent, and then quite a lot of young children as well. And so the needs of households and how to support households in the living arrangements within those households is going to be very, very different to the general needs of non-Indigenous peoples, because the structure of housing and the number of people living in those dwellings is fundamentally different. The third unique way that Indigenous peoples are impacted by disasters is the cultural and heritage rights that exists for Indigenous peoples. And when you've got natural disasters such as bushfires, such as floods, such as cyclones, and drought in particular as well, these have a significant impact on Indigenous peoples' cultural heritage, being physical artifacts, things like scarred trees, stone arrangements and the like, but also on their ability to enjoy their culture. When rivers dry up, people can't fish, and so it impacts the way their cultural experiences. When you have dreaming stories that are devastated when a bushfire sweeps through, it really impacts and fundamentally distorts the Indigenous people's experiences with their own cultural heritage and with their own history. Indigenous peoples generally have a distrust of government agencies and non-Indigenous organisations, and that distrust has been created through colonisation and the incredibly traumatic experiences that have existed between government agencies in particular and non-government organisations in our communities. So those deep kind of schisms that exist in our society need work to overcome them, and I can think of no more critical place to build those relationships than organisations and people in positions who deal with land and with community. A disaster is not a time to create relationships. Disaster is a time to work with relationships you've already established. And so where you have emergency services, where you've got disaster response agencies and non-government organisations that don't know any Indigenous peoples, that don't know the community organisations, that don't know where they live, that don't know their needs, and don't know the cultural heritage rights that exist in those areas, how on earth can they support those people? They can't. And when they can't support people in a community, the response is a failure, because you are failing the people and you're failing to provide what they need. But within the context of vulnerabilities, the discourse of vulnerabilities, we also miss a lot of the strengths. So some of the strengths are Indigenous communities are really, really close and interdependent. There's a strong ethos of don't leave anyone behind and make sure no one's at a disadvantage. And families that need, or individuals that need extra support, well, you've got community members there and family members that are generally ready to stand up and provide that support in whatever way that looks like. The other significant one, I think, is the existence of community-controlled organisations. So Indigenous communities have an array of organisations that advocate for communities, provide services for the communities, and safeguard and hold on to the rights that Indigenous peoples have. And so when you've got a response needing to pull together a response to disasters in real time, what a fantastic resource for larger agencies, non-government organisations, emergency services agencies to call upon in those disasters, because they've got the information is there at hand, and these organisations can reach community members very quickly, very effectively. There needs to be a sense of reality that it takes time to build relationships, and it takes commitment, and there's more than one relationship you should build in communities as well. So don't expect that you're going to find the first Aboriginal person and they're going to be the fountain of knowledge and all you're going to need to do. sort of, really investigate it, really get out there and make the time and commitment. And in the context of Aboriginal communities, go and have a cup of tea with people. It means a lot.